Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm finally back after my long battle with COVID, thanks to those with the get well wishes. But during this 2-week span, almost 3 weeks, so much stuff has happened. And over the course of the next week or two, I want to talk about it all. And the main subject is how mainstream media is changing now. We're going to kick it off by talking about adaptations. As it's not uncommon that many adaptations are misses, and we get a few shining gems every once in a while. But we can kick this off with one of the most divisive adaptations that have come out in 2022. And that's the Halo TV show. Before the show even ran, the showrunners had said they didn't look at the games while developing the TV series. If you're any self-respecting Halo fan, you would have not watched the show. Now you can say that's me being a bit too abrasive, saying, oh, well, you should give it a chance. But I think when the showrunners, the people who are making the show, say they didn't play the games or read the books, then the show isn't going to be worth your merit. You're a fan. These people aren't even fans of the source material. But we're going to go ahead and look at the quote because it was apparently misquoted. They did play some of the games. We didn't look at the game, says season 1 showrunner Stephen Kane. We didn't talk about the game. We talked about the characters in the world. So I never felt limited by it being a game. Now, I don't know how someone can openly say we didn't look at the game and then still say we wanted to make it about the characters in the world. How is that even possible when the game has the characters and world in it? This is similar to the newer Star Wars movies, where they all share similar iconography of the older movies and the franchise itself. It is simply just a thing wearing Star Wars as its skin. Of course the new movies would have stormtroopers, of course there would be some sort of empire, but I believe this is even worse with this Halo series. Earlier on, we were thinking about doing something that could tie very closely with the game. What we were finding was, trying to verbatim staying with everything that come before wasn't serving the medium. It also wasn't serving the creative teams and their need to express a story and build a world through their eyes. This is a sentiment I've seen quite a few times about the Halo series. I'm not that huge of a Halo fan. I've played up to 3, Reach, and maybe 4. I don't have a horse in this race similar to like in my Token video. I really don't like Lord of the Rings that much, but the implications of the staff saying that they wanted to project their own world through this IP that people already know. And this is why people have come to the conclusion these are just people who wanted to write their own story, but it wouldn't have garnered attention unless it was attached to an IP that was well known. From a surface level, the people writing this show look like leeches, simply leeching off the fame that Halo brings with its name. There was no way I was ever going to grasp the whole thing. So there was a lot of phone a friend. They were extraordinary in their acceptance in the fact that they couldn't just try to square peg round hole their 20 years of history. Gaming is a completely different medium. I was nervous. How do you take a first-person shooter and expand it? Then the director Bathurst would then say that he hadn't played Halo prior to landing the job, leaving him at a loss on how to translate the video game into a show. And I think this is the biggest problem. So you come into a thing and you're like, alright, you're directing the Halo TV show. And he's like, well, I've never played the games. Which is fine, right? You don't have to have experience in it, but at the very least, you should at least grasp Halo 1. That's all you realistically need to do. Beat Halo 1 and then maybe read some companion books to that game. And then dive, deeply immerse yourself into the world and the characters itself. You can't just say, we didn't look at the game, but we want to make it about the characters in the world when the game pertains to those things. Because that's how we get a hollow interpretation of what Master Chief is. This is why in the whole show he keeps taking his goddamn helmet off, even though that wasn't the point of Master Chief. He is a player's surrogate. This is from the voice actress of Cortana, who also plays Cortana in the TV series as well. Feels familiar and different at the same time. I hope people will be excited about that. Do you want it to be exactly the way you've already played it and seen it? I'm not sure. It will be interesting to see how fans respond to that. Now I think this is the slippery slope of adaptation. When people are looking for an adaptation, are they looking to just see something they've already seen before, or are they looking for something new? I'm personally in the camp of I would like to see something similar, but also different. It's okay if you take the characters and tell a different story. This could have been a show about Master Chief fighting a certain Covenant who's named or whatever. He doesn't have to be from the games or the books, but we do know what the Covenant is, and we can supplement information and put it into that character, making him feel real in the world. Now in Japan, 1-for-1 adaptations are actually more common. We can look at like the Bleach movie. I watched that one some time ago, but it was almost a 1-for-1 for the manga. Or at least it followed the same story beats. It wasn't about just Ichigo fighting random hollows or them making up a new enemy. It had many similar story beats to the original source material. Yet in my opinion, that hurt the movie. So while I don't think there's a true answer between, well, should it be 1-for-1 or should it be at least extremely similar to the source material or should it be different, I think the real answer is that it should encapsulate the spirit of the source material. Now for me, I've been watching Halo vicariously through Angry Joe, who has been having an ongoing copyright fight with CBS.
The motherfuckers came and blocked all of them. Goddamn copyright claim! They didn't fuck with the one with watermarks. But this might not even matter, because this might be a manual claim. So let's see if it's manual. Yep, it's the fucking guy. He's like, all right, Joe. Let's go! Let's go to war, Joe! Let's fucking go! God damn it, man. Send me the DMCA, and we'll go to fucking court. Send me the fucking DMCA. Get serious about it.
He's covered the show from episode 1 all the way to the final episode. There's some great clips in there. One of his guys on his show, called Alex, has a great statement about this isn't even fan fiction level because the people who wrote this show are not fans of the show.
Yeah, I think this is another great example where the sum of the failures is greater than the individual parts, right? When if you total up all the things that this show didn't do very well, or just did really, really poorly, or the character assassinations, or its new characters that absolutely suck, this is definitely below average television, and I think it's actually a little worse than that for me. I like the Halo franchise. I've played all of them. I like these characters. I'm totally fine with different tellings of different stories. They did such a poor job. Even just trying to sloppily stamp Halo on this, it doesn't feel like Halo. It feels like something completely different altogether. And I think that if you are trying to take something and make it your own and do your own spin on it, you have to be really, really successful. You have to do a really good job, otherwise you're going to be judged really harshly. And that's what this is for me. This is something that they did not execute at all. There's only a couple bright spots in the giant sea of shit.
And Joe is far more into Halo than I am. I think it stands to show that they didn't make this for the fans of Halo. But that's not to say season 2 will end up like season 1, as the showrunners, the guys who were like, we didn't really care too much about the games, the source material, are already gone. So by season 2, maybe someone else could pick up where they left off. And one of the showrunners, Kyle Killen, left the show before he even started airing, while the second showrunner, Stephen Kane, had to say this: and when there's a second season, I'm going to take a step back and consult and be available for new people. We'll have a new team to come in with fresh eyes to pick up where I left off, which I think is great for the show. Just to keep bringing in new people is such a big world, and it takes 10 times more work and energy than a normal show. His final statement really hits me, especially since Halo is a sci-fi show. It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of thought to write a sci-fi show. You have to be a very smart person to do it, as you're opening yourself up to many plot holes, conveniences, and a litany of other issues that come with writing a science fiction series. But what I don't like too much is the idea of the main showrunners just leaving and then leaving it up to someone else. Now, of course, they're going to be there to help them, but I don't think this is the greatest idea. I think when you have an image, something in your head that you really want to get done, you should probably stick to a similar individual to keep that idea going. Now, I understand it's hard. Sometimes you can't get the same person to write things. Maybe they're going to write a different show, as these guys have already written things before, so they probably were picked up by other studios or whatever. But this is, again, how you get like a Star Wars situation, where you had J.J. Abrams direct the movies, and then Rian Johnson comes around and just totally ruined the idea and creative vision that J.J. had. Because I can only see, if you jump around with too many individuals, it's only going to cause a clash in the writing. We can once again compare this to Peter Jackson's philosophy when making Lord of the Rings, which stood the test of time. We made a promise to ourselves at the beginning of the process that we weren't going to put any of our own politics, our own messages, our own themes into these movies. In a way, we're trying to make these films for him, not ourselves. A Halo TV show should be meant for who? First and foremost, I believe the fans, as they're the ones who have the attachment. Now, say what you will about how Peter Jackson did inevitably change things about Lord of the Rings. I would give it some leeway. It's a massive series. It's very hard to convert books into movies when they have such the scale of Lord of the Rings. But regardless, we can tell that people cared about how Peter Jackson had an interpretation of Lord of the Rings. There's a whole Wikipedia article based on his interpretation, and that's where it really should come down to. How much the creative minds who are adapting someone else's work care about the source material. Again, I've only been living vicariously through clips and Angry Joe of seeing the Halo show, and also my brother. My brother talks about it a lot. He is a Halo fan, way more than I am. He's played a majority of the games, so he's far more into it than I am. And what I see is a product that wasn't created for the original source's fans. Sex scenes in Halo, Master Chief always taking off his helmet. Quan as a character is just utter trash.
Quan! Quan-centric episode and her yee-ass fucking haircut.
And while this quote that I'm about to bring up is about video games, I think it rings true for any sense of media.
No. Stop making excuses for people who delayed a game for 9 months to put it out in this state. Stop, because people like you are making excuses for people like them. It is not appropriate, because you people keep apologizing for them. Go, oh, no, it's fine. No, this big plate of spaghetti's got shit all over it, but it's fine. The spaghetti underneath still good. No, stop it. That is not how this works. You as a consumer, you paid your money, you deserve better. Have some more fucking self-respect.
At some point, you have to look at yourself, especially if you're a fan of something, and you have to respect your fandom. You have to look at yourself and say, this isn't a product that was made for me. A lot of media is produced and created, and sometimes it's going to be bad. It doesn't matter if, oh man, we worked really hard on this. That's just the unfortunate part of the truth. Before we move on to the video, this video is sponsored by myself. I recently got into collecting digital trading cards on a website called Neon Mob. It's also an app too, available for mobile devices. I'm not sponsored by them, by the way, but this is a product that I really do enjoy using, as you can collect multiple card series and support artists through these card packs. As you can see, I have an affinity towards cute girls, but every day you get free pack openings where you can open packs and collect more cards. And I have my own series coming out May 28th called the Toridachi Teasers, based on the upcoming series that I want to create about anthropomorphized bird girls. So I would love if you can go check out the link in the description, make an account, start pulling for some of my cards, and even vote for one of my series to become official. Again, I'd be grateful if you check out the link in the description. Anyway, back onto the video. From here, I would like to talk about various adaptations that we've seen over the recent years, and which ones handle adaptation well, and which ones don't. First, let's talk about the Sonic movie. When the Sonic movie's first trailer premiered, it was immediately struck with backlash. Sonic's model looked ugly.
They'll like me for who I am. Not like last time when the internet got one look at my human teeth and burned the place down. Okay, let's see here. Best wishes, ugly Sonic. There you go, kid.
The studio listened to the feedback and ended up changing Sonic's character model to a much more preferred one that looked closer to the games. And that's not to say they didn't take their own liberties with the character, as they've made him way younger than he is in many of his games, but solely from following that feedback from the audience, fans of Sonic. The Sonic movie has become one of the most successful video game adaptations out there, with the second movie only garnering more fan adoration. It really shows how much love and care went into treating this franchise right.
Character is so important, and that's specific to all movies. It's not something that's just video game adaptations. Whether it's a comic book, a video game, a short story, no matter what the source material is, it's always going to come down to character. It's always going to come down to the audience falling in love with those characters. It's so important, and we work so hard, especially bringing in new characters like Knuckles and Tails in this film.
There's more action, more adventure, and since I have an agent now, there are perks. I have 4 words for you. Contractual chili dog breaks.
There's 30 years of this character of Sonic, and there's so much great material. So yeah, it's exciting that there's so many characters, so many storylines to kind of pull from as we continue to kind of craft our movie storyline.
You know, call me pessimistic, I never thought the Sonic movie would get to the success it got to now, as I've seen adaptation after adaptation of video game, anime, cartoons just fail. But I can attest to the success of the movie solely because a lot of the kids that I teach are huge fans of this Sonic movie. It's caught their eye, it's caught their love. Every day now I see a kid with some sort of Sonic merchandising. Whether it be toys, t-shirts, there's kids who come in with Sonic masks. It's amazing. I'm glad that the Sonic franchise was treated with respect and care. Or how about let's talk about the Death Note Netflix movie, where the only thing I liked about it was William Dafoe's Ryuk.
Now listen, I need to separate the wheat from the chaff. I think you might be capable of great things, but if you don't think you can handle it, that's fine.
How can this be possible?
It happened, just like that. Let's go again. He's sort of a devilish character, and he wants to be entertained.
Don't trust Ryuk.
Hey, kid! It's pronounced Ryuk. Go check it out.
Everything else was objectively not Death Note. Once again, it's similar to another IP just wearing the skin of something else and pretending to be Death Note. Yes, there's a book that is the Death Note in the series. Yes, there's an eccentric character named L. Now, my favorite internet Nazi, apparently, ER, has made a 3-part video about the Death Note movies. I would really say check those out, because it's been a while since I've seen the movie, and those videos are far more entertaining than anything I could do.
Thanks so gosh darn much, Netflix. fucks. But what percentage of the film must stay true to Death Note before it ceases to properly be Death Note? Can anything be Death Note so long as it says it is? We finally meet our deuteragonist, L. Tell me if you can spot the difference?
But what I found really interesting is that the creators of Death Note, Sugumi Oba and Takeshi Obata, gave praise to the Netflix adaptation. Now this is just pure speculation, but I think they're playing it nice. It's kind of common in Japanese culture not to say mean things about people. I wish I had taken that up in my life, but here I am now, being an internet asshole. It's more interesting than I expected. Every bit of it is high quality and very fashionable. It's definitely Hollywood's Death Note. That seemed like an insult to me. It's definitely Hollywood's Death Note. It seems like a big insult to me, but whatever. I think a wide range of people can enjoy this movie, not just fans, because there are parts that follow the original work, but also changes too. I hope that people overseas who did not know Death Note until now can enjoy watching it on Netflix. Adam Wingard's visual beauty and thrilling directorial are splendid, and create a Class A thriller. This is the kind of Death Note I'd like to draw as well. So while these two praise their Hollywood adaptation of their film, on the opposite spectrum we have Dragon Ball Evolution. At the time of the Hollywood movie, the live action Dragon Ball, the script had too little grasp on its world and its characteristics, and on top of that, it had a conventional content that I couldn't find interesting, so I cautioned them and suggested changes. But in spite of that, they seemed to have a strange confidence and didn't really listen to me. What came out in the end was a movie I couldn't really call Dragon Ball that lived up to my expectations. I think Dragon Ball Evolution mirrors why exactly these adaptations fail. Simply having elements of Dragon Ball does not make it Dragon Ball. A character named Goku, Dragon Balls. While all of these were included in Dragon Ball, they are not what made those characters important to Dragon Ball. A surface level understanding of a series will never make a good adaptation. And I only find it ironic that the Dragon Ball Evolution writer apologized to the fans in 2016. I knew that eventually it would come down to this one day. Dragon Ball Evolution marked a painful creative point in my life. To have something with my name on it as writer be so globally reviled is gut-wrenching. To receive hate mail from all over the world is heartbreaking. I spent so many years trying to deflect the blame, but at the end of the day it all comes down to the written word on the page, and I take full responsibility for what was such a disappointment to so many fans. I did the best I could, but at the end of the day, I dropped the Dragon Ball. I went into the project chasing after a big payday, not as a fan of the franchise, but as a businessman taking on an assignment. I have learned that when you go into a creative endeavor without passion, you come out with a suboptimal results, and sometimes flat out garbage. So I'm not blaming anyone for Dragon Ball but myself. As a fanboy of other series, I know what it's like to have something you love and anticipate be so disappointing. He nails it on the head here. This opportunistic attitude that Hollywood has when it comes to adapting popular franchises. Now that's not to say that if you're a fan of something that you'll create something great either. Especially since people who are passionate about a series will end up being taken advantage of by Hollywood. You know, it's almost like a lose-lose situation. But just like the Sonic movie, sometimes you can strike gold. But this businessman nature is what leads me to the next adaptation that flopped hard. Cowboy Bebop. Now before we can even talk about Cowboy Bebop, we have to pay respects to Keiko Nobumoto, who was a writer of Cowboy Bebop. Passed right around the time that the Cowboy Bebop Netflix adaptation had came out. If anything, I'm glad she didn't see how they treated her work. Now, similarly to Akira Toriyama, Shinichiro Watanabe also provided feedback to Netflix on the adaptation of his material. I read the initial concept and provided my opinions, but I'm not sure if they will be reflected in the final product. Following up on the director's seeming lack of confidence in Netflix adaptation, Takahashi next inquired, as the original creator, how would you feel if what you saw in the original scenario pitch and what was being broadcast differed? Watanabe replies, that will leave a pretty sour taste in my mouth. However, for example, when transitioning a manga to an anime, if the original author speaks on various points, it makes it work for the anime staff and it won't necessarily make it a good product. That's why I have no choice but to pray and hope that it will turn out good, LOL. Also, for Cowboy Bebop, I don't have any right to stop it. Those rights are in the hands of Sunrise. If you have a complaint, please send it to them. Just about every Saturday night, I would tune into Cowboy Bebop. As a youth, it really didn't hit me how well crafted Cowboy Bebop was. Only going into my adult years did I realize, oh my god, this is something different. This is important. And as I've said before, I'm still not the hugest fan of Cowboy Bebop. That doesn't change the fact that Cowboy Bebop left a mark on anime and media as a whole. It became a stepping stone for many creators. Which is why when I see articles from Vice that say Netflix's Cowboy Bebop isn't supposed to be good, I can only see that as an insult to the legacy that Cowboy Bebop had left behind. There was a time in my life when Netflix's live-action Cowboy Bebop would have offended and enraged me to no end. But if there's one thing the original 1998 anime series taught me, is that sometimes you gotta go with the flow. And this is exactly what I was talking about earlier, where we just make convenient excuses for bad media.
Have some more fucking self-respect.
7 years down the line, we might see the people who made this show apologize for making a piece of shit series like this, that lacked the heart and soul of Cowboy Bebop. Convenient excuses like this. From watching these analyses, one gets a sense that the showrunners either don't understand what made the original series special, or are purposely trying not to capture it. But decades after the original series left its mark, I simply couldn't get mad at all these transgressions. I had a much better time watching the new Cowboy Bebop as a goofy, high-budget cosplay skit than wishing for some high-minded, faithful adaptation. Instead of a slick and melancholy sci-fi tale, the new series is a wacky fanfiction.net fever dream come true. But of course, we can just give it a convenient excuse of saying it's meant to be bad, so that makes it okay.
You know what really grinds my gears? You, America.
It's not high art, and I wouldn't necessarily even call it good, but in its best moments, Netflix Bebop is truly an unhinged remix that puts classic characters through a nostalgic funhouse mirror you can't look away from. And I think the bastardization of characters isn't funny. Now, this is again a personal preference. I think this is a to each their own situation. But I think what makes the Cowboy Bebop adaptation even worse is that just like any other Hollywood adaptation, the people behind it hate the fans and they hate the material so much. Let's look at why the costume designer didn't want Faye to be overtly sexual, even though she was a femme fatale. That she used her female charms to her advantage. She's not just some bimbo. I feel like it's a respectful rendition of the anime. I do have to say, as a woman, I felt resistant to the idea of the lead female character being gratuitous or overtly sexualized. It's not about being revealing. It's not about any of that. It's actually got all of those elements. But my take on it is that it's designed by a woman and that it was made by a lot of women, and it's worn by a woman. Some of the elements are there, but they have just manifested in a different way. And it doesn't help that the actress of the Netflix Faye doubles down and bashes the fans.
Hey guys, so as you know, our Cowboy Bebop first look dropped today, which was so exciting, and I just wanted to address a couple of things that sort of keep coming up in the comments amongst fans. First, I wanted to apologize to the fans that I did not anatomically match the Faye Valentine character. 6 foot, double D size breast, 2-inch waist. You know, they looked everywhere for that woman and they couldn't find her. It's kind of weird. So they just went with my short ass. I know. Am I right? You know, there was talk about like, can we put Daniela in a time machine and maybe give her different parents so she has different genetic information to sort of make her look better? It proved to be too complicated. And the other thing I wanted to bring up was I want to apologize that the outfit I'm wearing is not exactly what she wears in the anime. You know, we tried, but doing stunts in tissue paper, things disappear, they rip. Sometimes it just got lost. Anyway, like I was saying, that original costume, they made a couple of them, but like I said, they got sort of slurped up in my various crevices, never to be retrieved again. So we needed to really build something that could withstand the test of time. So just, you know.
All the while, she's okay with being overtly sexual in other series, but when it comes to being an anime character, which are always sexual to them, she goes out of her way to insult the fans, because they're probably just a bunch of losers who like anime tits. And if you want to get a deeper dive into this subject, It's a Gundam has 2 videos out about Cowboy Bebop. The dude is a way bigger Cowboy Bebop fan than I am.
Cowboy Bebop wasn't an anime, it was an experience. It was a rite of passage. It was a teenager's first glimpse into the unfair world of being an adult, life, and even love. It was backed by a soundtrack that could trade blows with any contemporary hit song on the Billboard's Top 100 list. Protagonists that were relatable. Ships that broke down just like your car. With subject matter such as finding oneself and facing the past and overcoming the ever-looming reality of loss, regret, and paying bills. The fight scenes scream fan-made film set for YouTube. Stiff and wooden to the point where you think, wow, they really don't know the source material. Punches are so telegraphed in this show they could have their own goddamn phone line. Also, Spike Spiegel in this show is played by a 50-year-old actor, so you may as well call him Geriatric Spike. It don't make no sense. Honestly, I would say she probably did more damage to Cowboy Bebop before it came out than anything else. You know, I'm not being misogynistic or anything. I'm just saying she's had a lot of stuff to say over the course of this show coming out that I think really just rubbed people the wrong way. Of course, nothing will be learned from this. It'll just be chalked up to men being toxic.
It's just, like, really? Why did they pick John Cho, a 50-year-old dude, to play Spike? It makes no sense. There was no other dudes who could do this. You know, to finally wrap it up with Cowboy Bebop adaptation, we look at a directive team that says that they can expand or even fix what the anime has done. Writer Andre Nemec had this to say: "I promise we will never take the original anime away from the purist. It will always exist out there, but I'm very excited about the stories we're telling. I believe we've done a nice job of not violating the canon in any direction, but merely offering some extra glimpses into the world that was already created. I think that the poetic nature of the anime absolutely allowed us to mine an architectural nature of the characters and dig out deeper histories that we want to explore, and answer some questions that the anime leaves you with. I think to just redo the anime will leave an audience hungry for something that they already saw. The anime did an amazing job. We don't need to serve the exact same meal. I think it would be disappointing if we did." Which I find ironic is that they hit a lot of the story beats that the anime does cover and fail to do it justice.
The first 10 minutes of the first episode is pretty much the Cowboy Bebop movie's first 10 minutes.
Just a humble bounty hunter, ma'am.
Just a humble bounty hunter, ma'am.
Vicious gets shot, he shrugs it off in the anime. In the show, Vicious gets shot and he screams like a bitch.
And at the end of the day, they ended up failing to capture the spirit and soul of Cowboy Bebop. And despite having a second season greenlit, Cowboy Bebop was cancelled shortly after it aired.
Netflix pulled the show faster than any of us who criticized it could have ever expected. You know a Netflix show is doing bad when they drop it after one season.
What was interesting is seeing Japan's reaction. Expected. Live action adaptations aren't necessary. It's because there was an old dude cosplaying. There was nothing appealing. There's some people who did like it though. I wonder why, because it was enjoyable. Well, in the first place, you'd say watch the anime instead of watching a live action adaptation. Japan's anime isn't designed for live action adaptation. I had no idea they made this. Looks interesting. It seemed even foreigners mocked this. Why did they think of doing a live action? It was pretty good. I guess international fans were into it. It would have been better to make a new anime. There was a respect for the original anime. You can't just take an anime as is and adapt it into a live action, because there are all these uncomfortable feelings when the anime is adapted into live action. It looked like a game of cosplay. There was zero sense of speed in the action scenes. Netflix is where productions go to die. It felt crude, like the adaptation of Ghost in the Shell. To be honest, I always thought half of Cowboy Bebop's popularity was because of Tank. It was enjoyable. I didn't actually watch it. Great. This is a shame because all the little details were amazing. Foreigners sure are quick at cutting their losses, huh? Damn, that's a hard burn. Japanese dude, that's a really hard burn. It's because the original anime wasn't really that popular. I mean, a lot of people know what Cowboy Bebop is, but how many people have actually watched it? Actually, I want to see it. Yeah, no thanks. There are things that can only be done in anime, and there are things that can only be done in live action. Did anyone want to watch this? I watched it because the original anime is so popular, but got bored and turned it off. The main star seemed too much like a regular person. That was decided quickly. The recreation of the anime opening was shoddy. It was laughable. Let me just talk about that real quick. You can see that the people behind it said, we want this to be different from Cowboy Bebop while enveloping the soul of it. But they recreated the Tank opening almost frame for frame, and it looked like shit. Like, that's just how it is. It looked really bad. Like, hey, it's got the Tank opening. The people who like Cowboy Bebop like the opening, so they'll like this. It was so hyped up, and yet this. Make something original with this budget. That's something else. These people, sometimes they're just fresh out of college, or they've only written like maybe a few shows, and they have this original idea, or they have the ideas for their stories that they want to make, but if they make an original show, no one's going to watch it. So instead, they take someone else's IP and put their ideas into it. I liked it, but from the beginning, I went in with low expectations. This is how the live action One Piece is going to turn out. Yeah, I think so too. I don't have any faith in the live action One Piece that's coming out. I know a lot of people got on the Netflix poster where it said they, them for the Kobe thing. I don't think that really matters too much to the show. I think it matters a lot more to like Netflix and what they're trying to say, because they're saying, hey, we have a they, them on our cast. You know, people who are into that kind of stuff, people in the LGBT community, hey, you should watch this. We have a they, them on it. And I think that's just pandering. I think Netflix is just trying to pander. And we're going to talk about Netflix in the next video about how they're changing. I saw it, it seemed like it was created by people who didn't understand Cowboy Bebop and just, for the time being, slapped the name on it. Respect the original work, the director doesn't need to interpret or change things. Maybe if it was made in Japan, it would be better, right? Would Japanese people have made a better Cowboy Bebop adaptation? And just looking from my recent memories, I remember the Shingeki no Kyojin movie. I watched both of the live action movies. And at the same time, this movie also changed quite a bit about the original source material. Getting rid of Levi and changing him to a character called Shikishima, and how not a single character wore a blonde wig, a red wig. Every character is just Japanese, despite having names like Armin and Eren and Sasha. Like, when you look at the posters, you're like, is this really Attack on Titan? Who is this Sanagi guy? Why does he have an axe? Who is Hyana? But at the end of the day, the Attack on Titan movie was nothing more than advertisement for very famous actors in Japan. So it's not like Japan itself is excluded from bad adaptations. We get it all the time. It doesn't matter from where. It's the idea that the creators behind these adaptations only understand the work from a surface level. Yes, Attack on Titan has to have titans, and the main character has to be called Eren Yeager, who could transform into a titan. Mikasa will have a red scarf. There will be walls around the city. These are elements that are in Attack on Titan for sure. But the understanding of why these elements are important is pivotal. And now we can finally end it off with an upcoming, hopefully not ever, hopefully they just cancel it, but a lot of money has probably went into it. Apparently 15 million per episode. Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender. I grew up with Avatar. Let's pretend Korra never happened though. And so when I hear Netflix is making an adaptation, you look at Netflix's track record, Cowboy Bebop, Death Note, who knows how One Piece is going to look, and now we have Avatar: The Last Airbender. One of the more worrying issues is that the creators of Avatar, Brian Konietzko, if that's how you pronounce his last name, sorry if I'm butchering it, and Michael Dante DiMartino had left the show. DiMartino has an open letter to Avatar fans on his personal blog, where him and Brian both leave the production after 2 years of development work. The project started in 2018, and they were hired as executive producers and showrunners. DiMartino stating, "Look, things happen. Productions are challenging. Unforeseen events arise. Plans have to change. And when those things have happened at other points during my career, I try to be like an air nomad and adapt. I do my best to go with the flow, no matter what obstacle is put in my way. But even an air nomad knows when it's time to cut their losses and move on." Long story short, Netflix's team and the two creators couldn't agree on certain creative decisions. So the two creators decided to bail out. They wanted to keep their own creative integrity and not be associated with a product that they didn't creatively agree with. Now, a lot of questions pop up in my head, such as like, how is it possible that these prolific men who created Avatar: The Last Airbender, were not able to get over the Netflix studio and get what they wanted in the show? They're the goddamn creators. There could be various reasons. Either they're total yes men, or that the Netflix team had so much power and everyone else agreed with the Netflix team. So either they were the odd men out, and everyone else on the team were yes men towards the team, or whoever was in control of that, and they had no power in that situation. What I do know is DiMartino is a bit of a meme. The dude's almost like 50 years old, but he sought out wisdom from stoic philosophers to find out like what he could do and what he couldn't. It's really weird. He ends up quoting Uncle Iroh multiple times as if he didn't even write the character. It's like, Uncle Iroh would say this, and I'm just like, didn't you make Uncle Iroh? Like, he even asked himself, who are you and what do you want? It's like, dude, you're almost 50. You have to know this by now. It's unfortunate that he's giving himself such like surface level advice, such as sometimes life is a dark tunnel. You can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel. But if you just keep moving, you will come to a better place. It's like, that's such surface level stuff. Like, you can tell that to anyone. But I do empathize with him. I can only imagine how heartbreaking it must feel to be part of a group that's adapting your work, the thing you created, painstakingly created. The group themselves are creatively against you. Either the ideas aren't good enough, or they're mistreating your characters, or they want to change too many aspects that make it look totally alien to what you've created. And if I was in his position, I probably would leave it too, and totally disassociate my name with the production in its entirety. But like, what could be so bad about this Avatar Netflix live action adaptation? Well, we're gonna get into it. This will be our last thing we talk about. I'm sorry it's been a long video, but you've gotta stick around because this part is a massive goddamn meme. Firstly, there's going to be 10 episodes, each of them being an hour long. Apparently it costs $15 million per episode, so Netflix likes to throw their money away. And again, we're going to talk about Netflix next video, about how they're changing that, because they have been throwing money down the well. But in this case, when series like this are made and people hate them, the studio still ends up profiting. So let's look at these character descriptions for the Netflix's Avatar. Hopefully Aang is called Aang and not Ong.
The monks named me Ong. Ong, wait!
Are you the Avatar, Ong?
Name is Ong, and I'm the Avatar.
We should go visit some of these towns, Ong.
I need to tell you something.
What is it, Ong?
My name is Ong.
Ong.
Ong? Ong, can you hear me?
Ong, male, Asian. Lead character is 12, male, of East Asian or South Asian heritage. Aang is a typical 12-year-old boy. A bit goofy, a bit nerdy, restless in school, always eager joining his friends for fun games. He's nimble, energetic, and quick in the schoolyard. Adopted at birth, Aang has struggled with the question of how he fits in, but his loving parents have worked hard to make him feel accepted. Aang has to grow up to become generous, kind-hearted, and cheerful. Aang has also been gifted with incredible mystical powers. He doesn't really understand it, but it could be the key to saving the world from a global conflict. It's a responsibility he's reluctant to accept because it'll take him away from his family, friends, and everything he knows. All he wants to be is a regular kid. It'll be tough to cast in a live-action variant of Netflix's Avatar. Immediately, there are a lot of red flags here. For one, school is mentioned multiple times. Now, it looks like this is going to be set in a modern time, which I think is totally destroying what Avatar is. Sure, you could have the story of the Benders be set in modern time, but you would have to change a lot about the story. Why? Because the Benders are natural to the world. Aang here has been gifted with mystical powers, but he doesn't understand them, so he doesn't start off as an airbender. And notice how bending is not mentioned at all in this character. In fact, if you were to take out half of this description, most of it looks like he's just some prankster at school, like he's going to be part of a comedy movie. And then out of nowhere, powers are involved. In Avatar's original world, bending isn't mystified, it's normal. Sure, there are certain abilities that are mystified, like that people don't know about in the world, but the common person in the world knows about bending. And this is only exacerbated with the next few character descriptions on how they destroy the characters. Katara, female, Native American. Character is 14, female, of heritage indigenous of North America. Katara is smart, athletic, determined, and hopeful. She's had to keep her family together ever since her mother was killed in a mysterious supernatural event several years ago, a trauma that haunts Katara every day. Recently, she has started to develop new strange powers that both intrigue and scare her. She's looking for someone to help her understand these changes, but she's also started to find hope in the thought that her new skills could lead to a brighter future for her and her family. Immediately, it's like, who the hell is this character? First of all, her mother was killed in a supernatural event? Mysterious one? No. No.
You heard your mother. Get out of here! Now tell me, who is it?
If I tell you, do you promise to leave the rest of the village alone? It's me. Take me as your prisoner.
I'm afraid I'm not taking prisoners today.
What's going on? We're going to find the man who took my mother from me. And what exactly do you think this will accomplish?
I knew you wouldn't understand.
How do you think I felt about the Fire Nation when I found out what happened to my people?
She needs us, Aang. This is about getting closure and justice.
I think it's about getting revenge.
I think Aang might be right.
Then you didn't love her the way I did.
Katara!
I feel like I have no choice. You do have a choice. Forgiveness. It's easy to do nothing. But it's hard to forgive.
It's not just hard. It's impossible. She lied to you. She was protecting the last waterbender.
What? Who?
Me!
I always wondered what kind of person could do such a thing, as much as I hate you. I just can't do it.
And so now Katara will have immense trauma in her life. She'll be a traumatic character. And now also Katara is awakened and developed to strange powers, meaning that she isn't a waterbender. Like, she starts off in the series as a novice waterbender, so she's still a fledgling. But now she's going to be totally alien to these powers. And also it seems like bending will be a thing that the world doesn't know about. There's nothing wrong with adding flavor to the character that already exists. We can add new elements that are supplemented from the original story. Sokka, male Native American character, is 16, male, of heritage indigenous North American. Katara's gangly and stronger older brother. Sokka is a teenager who's forced up to grow up fast. Since his mother's death, he had to become the leader of the family, which has led him to butt heads with his sister, who resents his overprotective nature. He's concerned about her new powers and worried they might put her in harm's way. Despite everything, he and Katara have a natural rapport, and they trust each other. He has a sharp, sardonic wit, which is often used as a defense mechanism during uncomfortable situations, but also makes him entertaining and likable. Now, this Sokka is it's like a bad mirror of Sokka, to be honest. First of all, him being super overprotective. Yes, he is protective of his sister, but I would say Katara was the more protective character. And it looks like they're going to make him a sarcastic asshole instead of being the funny guy, because Sokka is a funny guy.
Hey, I got my eye on you.
Water tribe. Looks like Long Fang is long gone.
Yeah, I've been waiting to use that one.
This is Appa, my flying bison.
Right, and this is Katara, my flying sister. This was in my dream. We shouldn't go to the market.
What happened in your dream?
Food eats people.
Oh, just some angry freak with a ponytail who's tracked us all over the world.
What's wrong with ponytails, Ponytail?
Hey, we're in enemy territory. Those are enemy birds.
You know, no bending and all.
I can still fight!
So they mentioned the mother dying, but why not mention the father in this case too? Right? Like, oh, well, you didn't mention anything about the father at all.
I'm coming with you.
You're not old enough to go to war, Sokka. You know that.
Please, Dad.
Being a man is knowing where you're needed the most.
I don't understand.
Someday you will.
The final one that made me almost want to bang my head on the wall, Zuko. Male, Asian, character is 17, of East Asian or South Asian heritage. In excellent shape, focused and driven, Zuko has been driven to be an overachiever by his overbearing father, a career military man. Failure is never an option, and it doesn't matter who you hurt to get to the top. Zuko has struggled to reconcile that philosophy with his kind-hearted nature. That conflict has made him intense and guarded, which is why he comes off as brusque and arrogant. When Zuko discovers he has developed mysterious powers and is competing with Aang for the key role in their project, Zuko's father tells him to stop at nothing to win, and if he doesn't, he shouldn't bother coming home. Project? What are we talking about? What the hell are we talking about? Project. He's competing with Aang in a project? Aang is 12 years old. Zuko is 17. They can't even be in the same goddamn school. And then, okay, so he has an overbearing father, a career military man. That makes sense, right? Ozai is a general, right? You can say he's a military man, perfectly fine. But then Zuko also develops mysterious powers. So you're telling me he doesn't know his father is a firebender? Is his father even a firebender? And then Uncle Iroh isn't mentioned at all. This is, I think, the most closest thing we can see to creators not understanding the source material at all. Not understanding or just not caring. You know, he only shares slight qualities of the original Zuko. Nothing about him being burned. His father is just overbearing. Ozai is not just overbearing.
Fight for your honor,
I meant you no disrespect.
and suffering will be your teacher.
And then this article says, while the descriptions are interesting, it has me questioning some decisions. Aang has adoptive parents. Katara's mother dies in a mysterious supernatural event. Originally, Katara's mother died in a raid by the Southern Raiders. That's a strange change they've made, considering Zuko's father sent him on the mission for power. I hope that Uncle Iroh is still in the show. Again, Uncle Iroh isn't even here. So we'll have newcomers come to the show and think, oh, well, this is Avatar. It's not. Avatar is a great show that won people over with its characters. And you know, just to mention Korra real quick, even if the original creators were on board, they helped create Korra, so maybe this show wouldn't have been as good. But if we look at this, it's like it was doomed to be more like their Korra style writing, or it was doomed because the people didn't actually care about Avatar. And so that's my off-the-cuff dive into Hollywood adaptations. Netflix being the main criminal in disrespecting source material and hiring hacks to write their shows. People who want to put their own ideas into shows that already exist and have consistent world and lore. Other than that, this video has been up to 2 hours long. Hopefully I can cut it down to at least 40 minutes or less. And I'll see you for the next video of this series where we talk about Netflix and Go Woke, Go Broke.